The levels that really benefit from the branching pathways are the water levels. Instead of being forced like the first game, the water levels in Sonic 2 were kind of unnecessary. When the Sega Genesis was released in 1989, its biggest competition was the Nintendo Entertainment System, which was released 4 years prior. The Sega Genesis had far superior technical aspects to the NES.
Genesis does
16-bit arcade graphics.
You can't do this on Nintendo.
However, in 1991, when Nintendo released the follow-up to the NES, the Super Nintendo, the Genesis had the technical disadvantage. Despite releasing games like Sonic the Hedgehog to combat Super Nintendo sales, Sega was lagging behind and still had a technical disadvantage. At this point in time, ROM-based cartridges had been the standard storage for games, and had been around since the mid-70s. To put in perspective how much data these cartridges could hold, the audio file for the Sega chant at the beginning of Sonic the Hedgehog took up over 1/8 of the total space on the cartridge. Where the total space of a Genesis ROM cartridge could hold around 4 megabytes, the total capacity of a CD was around 700 megabytes. To regain a competitive edge in the market, Sega developed the Sega Cd, an accessory for the Sega Genesis that could play exclusive games, which were capable of displaying full motion video and CD quality audio.
Hey! You still don't have a Sega CD? Huh? What are you waiting for? Nintendo to make one? You have seen the games, right? Wrong answer, man. Show 'em!
However, the Sega CD ultimately did not help boost the sales of the Genesis significantly. The accessory only sold 2.2 million units, and at the end of the console wars, the Super Nintendo had outsold the Genesis by over 15 million units. Even though the Japanese branch of Sega helped with the creation of Sonic the Hedgehog 2, it was largely an American project. See, at the time, Sega of Japan was focusing on creating an enhanced port of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for the Sega CD. Over time, and with a lot of experimentation with the hardware, Sega of Japan ultimately created a different game. In the fall of 1993, Sonic CD was released for the Sega CD. New features include full-motion video cutscenes animated by the same team behind Dragon Ball Z, a time-traveling mechanic inspired by Back to the Future. Sonic, after hitting a signpost, can run at full speed to travel backwards and forwards in time to alter the game's ending. Sonic's Super Peel-Out move, another way for Sonic to reach his top speed. 8 new special stages, which allow the player to collect 1 of 7 time stones, and the introduction of fan-favorite characters Amy, Rose, and Metal Sonic. Amy's introduction was actually a little messy. In the American version of the game, the manual refers to her as Princess Sally, implying that she's the same character from the Sonic the Hedgehog Saturday morning cartoon. In Sonic the Fighter, she was called Rosie the Rascal. It wasn't until Sonic R that she was finally called Amy. Metal Sonic is the first adversary ever created for Sonic, and early on in the game, Metal Sonic captures Amy, who in this iteration is a very young child. Even though he was barely in the game, Metal Sonic gained a huge fan base after this, and returned in future games. I mentioned how Sonic 2 was a vibrant game, but oh my god, Sonic CD. The prior mentioned time-traveling mechanic allows Sonic to travel backwards and forwards in time to destroy a generator or a projection of Metal Sonic in order to achieve a good or a bad ending. So in order to draw a distinctly distinct correlation between good futures and bad futures, these intense, vibrant colors are used. Even the music in the game matches the unique color palette perfectly. The original US version of the game had an odd soundtrack. It was sort of an orchestral, slow techno style. It certainly helped with the odd setting, but it distanced itself too much from Sonic. However, the Japanese soundtrack, which is present in the modern iteration of the game, is stunning. It's upbeat, yet somehow different than the other soundtracks in the series, and it completely benefits from the CD quality sound. However, one thing that the Japanese version is missing is the Sonic Boom song at the beginning. Actually, maybe not. Even though Sonic CD sets itself apart from other Sonic games immediately with its vibrant color palette, its true unique qualities come from experimenting with the gameplay itself. One of the places I think it pays off the most is during boss battles. Usually, Robotnik boss battles are methodical and simple, But here, each boss battle is completely unique and has a creative challenge. One takes place underwater. Robotnik uses air bubbles, which Sonic needs to breathe, as a shield. One of my favorites has Sonic running on a treadmill in order to create friction to heat up and destroy the bottom of Dr. Robotnik's safe place. Even the face-off with Metal Sonic is unique. Instead of being a direct fight with him, Sonic has to race him to the end of Stardust Speedway, while avoiding Metal Sonic's and Dr. Robotnik's attacks. It's cool to see that even the most built-up boss battle in the game is experimental, especially when compared to the other two Robot Sonic fights in the classic series. Other Sonic games will often allow you to build up speed and then experience almost cinematic-like moments where you can pretty much sit back and watch Sonic go. However, Sonic CD relies much less on Sonic's speed, which is weird because it's the only classic game which has mechanics that require you to go fast. In order to time travel, Sonic has to travel at his top speed. Probably why he was given the super peel out move, but a lot of the stages don't provide enough space to easily move to his top speed, which is fine. I'm of the mindset that the only true factor speed plays in a Sonic game is a reward for your knowledge of a level, but here it's a necessary mechanic. On the subject of the time travel mechanic, is it neat? Yes, it certainly adds a sense of depth to the game, but the problem is that I don't care about it. And to be honest, this is a problem that translates, for me, to a lot of Sonic games. Why should I collect all the Chaos Emeralds in Sonic 1? So I get a different end card? Even in Sonic 2, I especially hate the special stages in that game. And to be honest, I think the novelty of playing as Super Sonic wears off quite quickly. So many Sonic games want me to be invested in getting that slightly different ending, but I just don't think it's worth it. Sonic CD requires that you time travel and traverse a level to find and destroy a generator, as well as to complete the special stage to earn the time stones to get a good ending to the game. The special stages are annoying as hell. Like most early Sonic special stages, they are in a pseudo 3D environment, which creates an indistinct depth of field that causes confusion. I get that you need to do this in order to complete the game correctly, but I experience the same levels for the most part. If I don't like specific avoidable mechanics of the game and my reward is minimal, why would I bother? Despite the time travel mechanics not adding anything to my personal experience with the game, I can appreciate the effort and quality the game strives for. Sonic games often experiment with new gameplay mechanics, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But when the effort is seen, an enjoyable experience can be found. Even with games like Sonic Unleashed and Sonic Lost World, entries that I have a very lukewarm feeling towards, I still have moments of enjoyment because I understand that Sega allowed the development team to put in their full effort, and therefore I'm going to put in my full effort to attempt to enjoy it. But it's when you see games like Sonic 06, where Sega didn't allow the development team to put in their full effort, that I don't want to put my full effort into enjoying it. If you're not going to give me 100%, I'm not going to give 100% into your product. Sonic CD is definitely an odd entry into the series. However, it's clearly one of the most visually striking and uniquely designed Sonic games ever. In fact, I mentioned how Sonic 2 has become the standard for all Sonic games since its release, with levels being derived from the game's level selection. I'd really like to see a modern Sonic game with color palettes and level ideas derived from Sonic CD, because I think it will lend itself to quite a unique experience.